Hey guys, it's Bradley with the Insurance Guys podcast. Scott, before we start today's episode, tell everyone who our sponsor is.
Hey guys, when you buy leads, you're digging through the same pile of leads as everyone else. You never know if you're getting to them first or if they've already been picked through by your competitors. The best leads are the leads that you generate yourself. But where do you start? With Colex Dates, you can build your pipeline with hyper-local prospects that you generate, such as targeting the neighbors of your best customers so you can discover more customers just like them. Or you can pick an area of town where you want to start doing business because you know your city better than anyone else. And since Colex Dates provides multiple contact points like landlines, cell phones, and email addresses, you don't have to worry about how to get a hold of your ideal customer. So whether you're calling, running an email campaign, dropping a ringless voicemail, or uploading your list as a custom audience on Facebook, we've got you covered. Generating your own leads can seem daunting, but when you put Colex Dates to work for you, you take control and can target your ideal prospects and have more conversations right on time. Colex Dates. Let's start generating leads together.
That was a great job, Scott. The guys over at Colex Dates have put something together really cool for only Insurance Guys podcast listeners. Head over to colexdates.com/Insurance Guys podcast. Fill your information out and they will contact you with a very special offer. That's colexdates.com/Insurance Guys podcast.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, hosted by yours truly, Scott Howell, and the incomparable Bradley Flowers. For agents, by agents, we're here to share real-life experiences, tips, and insights related to all aspects of both being an insurance agent and running a successful agency. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let's get down to business. Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. I am your fearless leader and host, Mr. Scott Howell, agency owner and agency insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based in Huntsville, Alabama. Before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama, a Rivals 5-star recruit, a parade first team All-American. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Please stand and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Scott, I've never been more excited for a podcast guest.
I'm telling you, man, right now, this is a big deal for us. Now, we're just a bunch of rednecks from Alabama, but guys, I'm going to tell you something. Listen, to the 250,000 insurance agents that are listening around the world, I am about to have the honor to talk to and introduce one of the most accomplished people after spending 2 days researching her. I have studied her the way that the Discovery Channel studies meerkats. And I'm telling you right now, I've met a lot of people in 46 years. There is not one son of a bitch in the state of Alabama that knows more people than I know. And I don't know that I have ever met someone that is as accomplished as she is. So let me go ahead and get her going here as far as reading her bio before we bring her on. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about our mission of this podcast. Our mission on this podcast is to help you agents in any way we can. Sales, service, marketing, content creation, telling your story, hint, hint. We're going to talk a little bit about that today probably. We are here to talk about anything that we can that can help you in your agency, help you grow, help you to have a better life and to have more freedom than you have today. That's what we're here to do. And I am excited today to get to introduce this person that's about to come on the podcast. Probably too excited. I was just doing push-ups in the bathroom before this started, by the way.
He's not joking.
Just to give you just a little Whitman sampler of who we've got on the podcast today, these are some of the roles that she's previously held. She's been on the Orange Bowl committee. She's worked with ExxonMobil, Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. She's a thought leader in the social storytelling space. She's a graduate of both Fordham University and New York University in Cortland. She is seen as a go-to executive, and throughout her 15-year career, she has continually tapped in to lead special projects, priority campaigns, and high-profile initiatives. She joined VaynerMedia. Guys, if you have been alive in the last 5 years and you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, I don't know what the hell to tell you to do except just turn our podcast off and go somewhere else. She joined VaynerMedia in 2012. She reports directly to Gary Vaynerchuk, and she's quickly rose through the ranks from group director to her current position as senior VP at VaynerMedia. She lives in Santa Monica, California. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the other incomparable Miss Kim Garcia. Kim, how are you today, ma'am?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for that. I feel like I really accomplished something in my life, so thank you.
I want to do
that was really meaningful.
I want to do the Scott and Kim podcast where we spend 6 hours talking about nothing but what has driven you throughout your life to accomplish the goals that you have accomplished. I am absolutely blown away.
Fire in the belly right there.
Hey, I guess so. Probably got about 175 IQ too, if I had to guess, but we won't go there right now. Kim, let's talk a little bit about the reason that you're on this podcast today, and I'm going to veer off in a little bit of a direction here in a little while, but the reason that Kim is on this podcast today, and guys, let me say this, I am like a proud daddy whose son just got a college football scholarship to the University of Alabama. My podcast partner and one of my best friends is a guy that everybody listening to this podcast knows. His name is Bradley Flowers. And Bradley Flowers has been chosen to be a part of the Agent 2021 conference with VaynerMedia. And I can't tell you what that means to me personally, and I am not going to start crying because I said I wasn't going to, but that means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to Bradley. I just appreciate, Kim, you guys giving him the opportunity to come down there and be a part of that. And let's talk a little bit now before I start crying, and I'm going to let you step in and talk a little bit about the Agent 2021 conference. And what I would like for you to do is kind of go back in time for us just a little bit, just a few years, and talk about the genesis behind the Agent 2021 conference, how that got started, and then take us up to today.
Yeah, you bet. First, we're stoked to have Bradley, so we're so happy he could make it. He earned his spot on a panel, so we are incredibly excited to have him as part of Agent 2021, especially coming out of our first year. But moving on from that, Agent 2021 was born 2 years ago. Gary and I started thinking about it roughly 3 years ago, last year being our inaugural year. So we started to see sort of a trend within VaynerMedia. We had a ton of inquiries from Tier 2, Tier 3 auto, independent agents in the insurance world, real estate agents. So not only for VaynerMedia services, but also for wanting to hire Gary for a keynote. And so it was just so constant. The inflow was so constant. He obviously resonates with entrepreneurs and independent spirit thinkers. So because we just kept seeing a constant flow, we wanted to figure out a way to really be able to deliver on education. Obviously, as an agency, we believe strongly in social and digital media. We believe currently that's where the consumer attention is. We wanted to figure out a way ultimately to provide a low-cost way for insurance agents and independent agents to figure out how to use social media to move their business forward. So with that little sort of nugget of insight, we launched Agent 2021. And this was really our answer to very practical, very educational, not thought leadership, not inspirational. You can watch Gary's content and get inspired all day long for free. You don't need to buy a ticket to get inspired. We wanted to make sure that we were creating an event and a conference that would be incredibly tactical and provide the most ROI for the ticket purchaser, knowing that any investment in sort of education and your business coming out of your own pocket needs to have incredible ROI. We wanted to make sure that education was the first and the first thought with our attendees in mind.
I love it. Let's get down into the nitty gritty here. So we have the conference. I believe last year was the first year. Is that correct?
Last year was the first year. And it's interesting too, because we launched it with only 2 months notice. Correct. So we announced it in November, the week before Thanksgiving, and the event was January 24th last year. So it was a hustle for sure.
Absolutely. How heavily involved in that were you? Are you the tip of the spear?
Yes, but I am in the weeds with my team. I mean, our team is small. We're scrappy as fuck. We get a lot done in a short amount of time. But yeah, no, I'm on Bradley can tell you I'm on every speaker call, vetting speakers.
Yep.
I'm speaking with ticket buyers, answering questions with attendees, and then I'm also doing sponsorship and partnership calls and that sort of thing. So I'm deep, very deep.
I think that speaks to the level of how much you want the guests and the attendees to get out of it. The fact that you guys are so involved. You're not managing or putting together this conference from a glass chessboard. I mean, you're down there and you're actually the one doing it. When I'm inquiring about it, or when you guys were inquiring in me, I mean, it was you and I talking, not the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, number 7 guy in line, right?
Nope. No, not at all. And I'll tell you, we had a survey that we sent to all attendees last year, as well as to all of our speakers and our sponsors. And I read every single one that came through. And we had a pretty significant rate of return on those surveys. It's important to me. Like, I want people to feel like they're getting what they want out of it. And I'm competitive as well. So I want to make sure that I'm always, we're always outdoing ourselves. I want to make sure year 2 is always going to be better than year 1. I was grateful with the amount of enthusiasm folks had coming out of year 1, but I know that there's areas we can do better. And so we're going to continue to push ourselves for this year. So yeah, it's super important to me that the experience, but also, as I mentioned earlier, the education is there for folks.
So on that note, what are some things that are going to be different from last year? And what are some things that are going to be the same but 10x?
Yeah. So last year, as a vertical, we included travel. Again, very similar in terms of the independent agent. There are a ton of obviously independent travel agents out there now that are looking to use social, competing with more traditional type of travel agent. So we included them last year. This year, we received so much feedback from the mortgage industry, and it felt like a better pairing with obviously real estate and insurance that we included mortgage this year. So we swapped out travel, included in mortgage, and the mortgage attendees so far have been incredible to talk to, just in terms of like what they want to learn. We have some amazing speakers on board. So that is one change from last year. Just from a format perspective, I would say the content is still happening in the club level of the stadium, but we're using the field in a much more robust way. So all of our partners and sponsors are going to be on the field where all of the main keynotes are happening. So Gary will do an opening fireside chat with Matt Higgins, who we're stoked to have. We'll have a Vayner Lounge, so we can chat one-on-one with attendees. We're going to have actually some programming within there as well. So we didn't program the Vayner Lounge at all last year because all of our speakers were on panels. But this year we're bringing down additional staff to really staff up. That was feedback that we got from attendees last year, that they wanted to have more interaction with Vayner staff. They wanted to have more education from the Vayner team. So we're programming out our Vayner Lounge. Facebook, who had an amazing presence last year, will be back again this year. They're actually going to run Instagram Stories School. So if you have any interest, which if you're a marketer, you should understand how to use Instagram Stories at this point. It's an incredible financial investment in terms of what you're getting back in terms of conversion. So they're going to run an Instagram Stories School, which will be relevant to each specific industry. And they'll also have a cabana on the field where they'll be interacting with attendees one-on-one to answer specific questions. Yeah. So yeah, and we also heard from our attendees last year that they wanted more time to network. I mean, these are industries that there's a lot of cross-pollination happening. Yep. And we were so packed with programming last year that attendees didn't feel like they got enough time to actually interact with one another. So we built in an hour-and-a-half networking break. So yeah, so I think that, we've made a ton of updates. We've definitely leveled up the speakers from last year. We had an incredible amount of speakers that came on board last year. And I think, now that there's been a little bit more awareness within all these different industries, we've been able to even go deeper. And so I'm really excited about the speakers that we have this year as well. Yeah, we actually just got done doing a podcast with Danny Kimball. Yes, we're so stoked.
Yes, she's awesome. And we were actually talking about Insta stories. So,
oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was really excited to see you guys had selected her, and it looks to really be a rock star lineup, and I'm beyond excited. And I agree on the networking thing. I'm actually going a day early and staying a day late just so I don't miss any opportunities to network at all.
That makes a ton of sense. I think that's one of the best parts about these types of conferences. I think for most industry-specific conferences, you're not having that crossover. Mm-hmm. But here we're bringing you all together. And you are all facing similar challenges within your industries, right? These are industries that have been slower to adopt digital and social marketing. And so there's a lot of discussion to be had. And then there's also just like a lot of biz dev that should be happening between these industries as well.
And they're industries that the A players and the B players can't really be replaced by technology, but the C players and the D players can. And so what you guys are really, in my mind, doing are taking the C players, the D players, and even the B players and trying to move them up a level.
Yeah, and I would say also the other thing I like about especially the target attendee that we're going after, I would say in the insurance industry, last year we had mostly independents. We had some representation from some captive, but I would say mostly independents. And what I like about, this target audience in general is that you've been the underdog mostly. There hasn't been a ton of financials behind your ability to grow your business. And so I think I like that it sort of evens the playing field from big brand to entrepreneur to independent, whatever you want to call them. I think it really evens the playing field.
Yeah. Actually, it's a cool fact. We actually, Insurance Guys Podcast just picked up our first sponsor. And
no way. Congrats.
It's one of your sponsors too. It's Cole Information is actually.
They're awesome.
They are great. I actually use their product. It's a phenomenal product for insurance and real estate.
Yeah, I was really impressed by them. I was so happy that they approached us because they obviously are aligned with two of our verticals. So I'm excited to have them on board. I think our attendees will get a lot out of them.
Yeah, Greg over there, Greg Ellsbury is a good friend of mine. He's actually going to be on our podcast as well. So talk a little bit about if our listeners wanted to attend the conference, how they would go about doing that.
Yep. You can jump on agent2021.com, purchase tickets there. If you're listening today and you're a fan of this podcast, you can use the code Insurance Guys and you will get nearly 20% off your ticket price. So we're stoked for that. There are a bunch of different ticket packages. There are VIP ticket packages, which will allow priority seating at the event. You'll also get dinner with Gary. You'll also have, obviously VIP registration, all that. It's a really seamless experience for our VIP ticket holders. And then for general admission, you have obviously access to all the content for the day. You're welcome to the general reception the night before. And then we also have, because personal branding is such a theme that Gary has leaned into, obviously with his Daily V and all of his other sort of personal branding methods. We sell a videographer pass. So we've seen a lot of our attendees really wanting to follow the Gary V model of personal branding. Yep. And they've hired their own videographers because they want to obviously create as much content as they can on the fly. So I think that's a unique offering that VaynerMedia has and this conference has, is you can bring your videographer who will attend the day with you and capture all the content for your day so that you can use it within your own marketing efforts.
And Bradley Flowers will be doing that.
Yes.
So I have a question sort of outside of Agent 2021, and then I'll let Scott talk to you. What's the best part about reporting directly to Gary Vaynerchuk? And what is, I'm not going to say what the most difficult part about reporting to Gary Vaynerchuk, but what's the most difficult part about, I guess, the level at which you're at in the industry that you're in?
He's honestly the best boss I've ever had. And I'm not one of those people that I've had bad bosses, to be honest with you. I've generally in my career been very lucky to report into some really great people, but Gary is by far the best. I think there's a few things. I think he very much trusts me, and that obviously it took a little bit of time, but I think he moved very quick in terms of his trust. And I was a client of his before, so I went the opposite route. Most people go agency to brand. I went brand to agency. Right. So there was a relationship already in place when I started working for him. But, I think he truly trusts me, and he actually values my opinion, and he cares about my thoughts on things. And I think that's super important. He's not a micromanager in any way, shape, or form. I would say, and I've not had a boss in the past that has really cared about me beyond professional. So he knows my family. He really always wants to make sure personally I'm fulfilled as well as professionally. And I think that's a little bit different than most CEOs of organizations. Right. I would say treating me like a whole person. He hired me 5 months pregnant, for crying out loud. He's unique. That's all I can say is he's unique. And I really appreciate having him as a mentor, but also my boss.
Cool. And so what's the hardest part about working at the big agency at the level that you're at?
So I think because VaynerMedia as a whole and Gary as a whole obviously draws a certain type of person, competitive. I would say, like I mentioned, fire in the belly. There's a lot of big personalities. And I think, thankfully, he also attracts the type of person that leads with empathy, is kind, very supportive of one another. I would say that probably the most challenging because of all that, though, is you put, at least I do, and I would say that's for probably the majority of our senior leaders at the agency, is that you put an immense amount of pressure on yourself, right? Like, you want to succeed. You deeply care about the agency. You really care about Gary's success and your own personal success. And so there's a lot of pressure that comes with that trust, right? He puts a lot of trust in me, but that comes with a lot of pressure. Like, most people are like, oh, it's great, my boss trusts me. But I'm like, I take that. I am very precious with that. I think it's incredibly important that he puts that trust in me and that I do, and I'm responsible, right? So I think that's probably the hardest part. And his schedule's crazy. I mean, I've been with him now 7 years. So seeing his star rise over the last couple of years has been phenomenal. That also has allowed less time to really like gut check and check in with him. You don't have that sort of 24-hour support. So that, not that he's not available, but I think his time has become a lot more challenging. And then I would just, couple that with the amount of pressure that I think we put on ourselves to not fail and to not, throw his trust away, I think is probably the most challenging.
Kim, I got a couple questions for you.
Please.
So question number one, for the 250,000 insurance agents that are listening to this right now, if they want to come down to Miami and be a part of this, what are we talking about in terms of cost?
So if you use the Insurance Guys discount, if you use that code, you're looking at around $800 for a general admission ticket, and you're looking at about $1,800 for a VIP ticket.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
And that's 20% off, so I don't know why you wouldn't use the Insurance Guys code.
Well,
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Let me speak on behalf of them, because all I am is an insurance agent that happens to have a podcast. But let me speak on behalf.
That's not all you are.
Well, let me speak.
Don't downplay it.
Let me speak to all of them for them right now and say this, guys. And I'm speaking to our audience right now. If you want an opportunity to go to Miami, Florida, and listen to thought leaders that have their finger on the pulse of a lot of different areas of both insurance, social media, storytelling, things like that, I don't know a better place that you could go to be able to go do that. Now, some people might say, well, I don't know if I can, I don't know if the cost, and I'm going to have to fly down there and stay down there. Well, okay, so maybe you're all in for $1,500, $2,000, whatever the cost is. But I do believe that if you take the time to go down there, I do believe it will be well worth the trip down there to do that. And if nothing else, it's kind of like this podcast. A guy walks up to us before we got on the podcast after lunch. He said, why in the hell are y'all doing a podcast? Well, the number one unintended consequence of this podcast has been the relationships that we've built in the insurance industry. And I think that I don't know that you can quantify going down to Miami and getting a chance to meet the kind of people that you're going to get to meet down there. So my point is, if you've got the money, people, if you can get down to Miami, you need to do that, because I'm telling you, you're going to make some relationships, and you're going to learn some things down there that could change your life. As my friend and great American Mike Stromso says, big doors swing on little hinges. And you may learn one thing down there that changes the course of your entire life. So,
and if you are listening and you are going, hit me up on Instagram, Saraland_insurance, and we'll try to meet up at some point.
If I get a ticket, I'm not going to dinner with Gary. I'm going to talk Kim into going to dinner with me. I don't need to go to dinner with.
That's what Sydney Rowe with Agency Nation said last year. She said it shouldn't have been. Everybody was calling it the Gary Vaynerchuk conference, and it should have been called the Kim Garcia conference.
Exactly.
She said that on camera. I don't know if you've seen that, but she said that on camera.
I did see that. She was very sweet. That was really nice of her.
Kim, I cannot get off this podcast without saying a couple things. Number one, thought leader in the social storytelling space. Let's talk a little bit about that. I know it's off the Agent 2021 deal, but talk a little bit about the social storytelling space.
Yeah, so I think, my core, I'm obviously right now within VaynerMedia, I run the division called Vayner Experience, which is brand partners and live events. Prior to this, I I worked for Gary I built and ran our entertainment division. So movie launches, show launches, sports, that sort of thing. I'm a marketer at my core. I graduated with a master's in counseling, which, I was actually an adolescent therapist for a couple of years. I really like the psychology of people. And it's funny because I severely missed that job. But there's so much psychology used in marketing and, obviously social. I was always an early adopter of social media. I was on Twitter in 2005. I just found it an interesting way for people to interact. And so I'm a marketer at my core who's really deeply passionate about the psychology and sociology of people. And so I did that. Man, I was doing at Discovery Channel. I was in marketing, did a bunch of the show priorities at Discovery Channel. I was really on the forefront of bringing social media into Discovery Channel. I think, I used to oversee Shark Week, and it was the first opportunity where, Facebook was just launching. People cared about, their shows on Facebook. And so I was trying to figure out a way to monetize social at that point. And so then when I was introduced virtually to Gary, I was like, you know what? I think, I want to talk to him just about social media in general, how it can move your business forward, but also at some point, I feel like I'm very entrepreneurial spirited. At some point, I feel like we're going to end up doing business together. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. And so, to me, consumer attention is super important. I think you have to be able to be thinking ahead of, what is working within business. I believe every dollar counts. So if you can't figure out a way to get your product or your show or whatever in front of people spending money, then you need to switch tactics. And so for me, social has been that. It's been an easy way and a low cost effective way to get your message in front of people.
Did you come up with the idea of Daily V?
I did not. No, that was Gary.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. One of the coolest moments of my life was about 3 weeks ago. I signed a release to be on Daily V just in case they got me in the camera. I was like, that's really freaking cool. But
they likely will.
I'm going to ask you a question that I would ask Gary if he was sitting across the table from me or he was on this phone right now. And I'll get your answers, then I'll tell you what I think, and Scott can chime in as well. Where do you think the majority of insurance agents listening to this podcast, what do you think they're screwing up at, or what do you think they're doing wrong, not doing, neglecting in terms of their digital marketing?
Look, I'm not going to be the judge.
Right. And I'm not asking you to be. I'm not asking. I want to get your opinion, from the outside looking in.
Yeah. I think to be honest, it's a very similar mindset that a lot of our corporate 100 senior executives have about social media and digital is they forget that they're consumers as well. So where they're spending their time is where their consumers and their target is spending their time, which for a lot of them is social media, right? Or on Facebook. And so I think that I would say, a lot of these industries, insurance, real estate, mortgage, have been slow to adopt social media because they don't believe in the value of it. And they're making excuses for why it would work, which, again, a lot of our Fortune 100, oh, my target's not on there. Or no, this is a cold call business. No, it doesn't have to be.
Right.
I think they forget that humans are humans and human behavior is human behavior, and their target behaves as a normal person.
Reacting to what the market's doing.
Yeah. I think that, they're thinking too much I think they're stepping away from logic a little bit and trying to come up with excuses on why it isn't the right thing for them. It's just not reality.
Well, see, and mine is, I think, I can't go take a picture of insurance and post it, right? I can't go on my Instagram and mark insurance 20% off today, right? I can't do that. So what's my product? I'm my product. And I think and I think that's the way you separate yourself from the direct to consumer companies is you make you your product and people want to do business with you, not the carrier, not the company. And I think it's in the personal branding that people are really missing the boat, because like people say insurance is boring. No, we're just conveying that insurance is boring. There's a lot of freaking interesting people in the insurance industry. And I think that if everybody had a daily V, and I'm not telling you to do that, but if everybody listening to this podcast had some sort of vlog and it showed their personality, not the version of their personality that they want everybody to think they are, then there would be way more leverage than there is now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we know that Generation Z, right, that they're 100% focused on trust and transparency, and that's how they're making their purchasing decisions. So it's why trust funding is such a big topic within the insurance world now. So look, if you're not putting yourself forward, if you're not establishing trust with your customer or your possible customer, then you're not going to win. And it's so easy. Like it's not cold calling. You're putting yourself out into the digital world. Like it is so much easier than cold calling. Just do it.
Right. Absolutely. Kim, are you flying back and forth from Santa Monica to New York?
Yes.
That's got to be fun.
I just got to Santa Monica 6 months ago, I think is when we moved.
Wow.
Yeah, we just moved 6 months ago. I was in New York for the last 6 years.
Are you liking it out there?
Yeah, I love it.
No snow. Snow.
Yeah. Well,
no snow.
Well, listen, I'm gonna end the podcast with saying this. Insurance agents from around the world, I want you to listen, and I want you to listen damn well at what I'm about to say. So Gary Vaynerchuk has cracked the code on one thing that I can confirm. And you all, as insurance agents, don't ever forget that I said this. The key to having a very successful insurance agency is to hire the best people, not the best people available, the best people. And there's one damn thing I can sure promise you. When Gary Vaynerchuk hired Kim Garcia, he hit a damn walk-off grand slam home run when that happened. And if we all somehow could manage to have agencies full of Kim Garcias, we'd have more money than a show dog can jump over. I'm telling you that right now. So, Kim, I want to end this podcast by telling you again how humbled, how blessed, how grateful that I am for you being on here today. We're going to go ahead and close this thing out. Insurance agents from around the world, remember this. Rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk and go out into the big bad world and go sell insurance. Go make money for your family, for your kids. Go write good business for the agencies that you represent, and go write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Love you too, buddy. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. We'll see you back here real soon. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.